So here is the computer. So what's running 60 miles away? This is a Mac Studio. I believe it's I want to see, is it M1 or M2? I can't remember. This is an M1 Max. Okay, so not the highest end computer, but it does have something I really like. It's got 32 gigs of memory, which is, that's nice. That's really nice to have. I only have 16 on my Mac Mini here at the studio. So Mac Studio running, and what's going on here? Well, obviously I've got Ecamm set up here. So I always have Ecamm running. I just have it running. But you can see it's a pretty easy setup here. I've got like an opening scene here, and this is just a video file that plays as the service is getting going. I usually start the stream about 5 minutes ahead of time. So this allows me to kind of test the connection with YouTube, make sure that I didn't do stupid stuff like set it to unlisted instead of public, which I've done before. And I'm wondering why nobody's joining the stream. And it also allows me to do any audio checks or things like that as I'm preparing for the cameras to go live. Once it's finished playing this video sequence, then it goes into this cycle where it cycles between, there's 2 cameras inside the church. And these are, it's just right now, all it's doing is I think it's about every 10 seconds. It just alternates between the 2. And I may have something like there's a piano and there's an organ. And if there's some live music playing, I'll zoom in on that, the pianist, when they're, as things are preparing. So there's a little bit of difference between the 2 shots. And then I'll go into my center camera. And then usually the pastor will be front and center on won't be standing on the altar. He's usually down closer to lower level. And I zoom in on him and away we go. One of the interesting things about, I never really used this mode, and maybe you have, or maybe you haven't, but the preview mode inside Ecamm. And preview mode is awesome because it allows you to set up a new camera that you're going to switch to prior to you switching to it. So for instance, if I put it in preview mode right here, right? And now it's in preview mode, and you can see here, you see preview mode and you see program. So program is what's going out to the internet. And then preview mode, it allows me to switch. So if I want to switch to the left camera, I can switch over to that. And then if I wanted to do stuff like zoom in, and I'm going to show those controls in a little bit, but if I wanted to zoom in or have a different angle, I'd set up that camera first, and then you just hit the return key, and then it makes that the live camera. And then I can go back to my center camera, reconfigure that one, and then hit return again. And then it's got a new view of the center camera. So it's really cool for setting things up. And I know a lot of apps have this, but Ecamm by default does not turn this on. This is something that you have to turn on. And so you'll see down on the bottom here, I'm using the keyboard, but I only have 2 cameras and I've assigned them to F1 and F2. So I just sit there and I cycle between them, and then I hit enter, which is the same thing as hitting the publish button here, and that'll switch it over. So I'm tapping keyboards, I'm hitting my iPad to rearrange the cameras. Frankly, that's all I do during the entire service. Yeah, you got to make sure. Well, I see the thing is, once I get into, this is a good point. You got to make sure that you go back to live, and that is very much the case. But for me, once I'm in this mode for the rest of the service. So I don't have to worry about doing anything that is going to require me getting back to live mode unless things start going sideways on me. I haven't had that happen yet. So that's a good, thing to remember, though, is that if you're using it, I use it I have another show that I do, The Rainy Cajun, with my cousin. And what I'll do is I'll step through I've got the Stream Deck pedals, and I'll step through the scenes and until I get to the one that I want in preview mode, and then I'll hit the center pedal to publish that. And then I get it all set up, make sure that, people tend to move during interviews, and they're doing this, or they're, or colors change or stuff like that. And I like to tweak those things before I go to a live view. So, hey, George, welcome aboard. So this is, this is the run of it. And then I just go right to the end. And that's usually set on, oops, go on, there we go. And that's set on the center camera, and then I'll hit return, and there we go. And then I keep that running until usually the piano stops playing, and then I hit end my live, and I'm done. Something else that I've got on here is the hymns. Now, the hymns are, and if you're not religious, just, this could be anything, okay? So this is just, this is an example, right? But if I have this app called Teleprompter, and what this allows me to do is as people start singing, I can start this playing, and I've got a little slider control you can see down here at the bottom. So if I need to slow it down or pick up the pace, I can do that. I've got control over that. Oh, did it freeze up on me? Oh, it's kind of freezing up. Come on. I probably got, my bandwidth has gone nuts there. Okay, sorry. But you can see that's what's, it's a useful, the Teleprompter app has been really useful. They were using PowerPoint slides, and the PowerPoint slides were just lame. They were just lame. So I decided to do something like this. Of course, it requires that I set up this as a script prior to the service, but this allows me to go in, and it's like, okay, we're going to sing these verses, and I have all this information ahead of time. I go and I find the song. Almost every Methodist hymn is already in text format out there on the internet, so I don't have to worry about it. I just copy paste and away we're done. So, and then of course I have, because this is the Teleprompter app, I can use the roller on the middle button on my mouse to kind of scroll through real quick if I need to. So that's it. Really, I've got left cam, center cam, my hymns, and that's it. I'm done after that, which is, it's pretty straightforward. But the biggest challenge for me is when I'm doing these remotes is knowing where people are, and then this is a hard one, where the hell they're going. And that's something that, I have a shot list, and I'm going, okay, normally this part of the service occurs over here, or sometimes it occurs over here, but almost inevitably every week there's a tiny little tweak, so that shot is no longer valid, and then I end up having to reconfigure or quickly, if I'm like, let's say I'm zoomed in on my center camera here, and I need to get my left camera configured, I'll have to sit there and play around with where it's going to be. And maybe the pastor was supposed to be center, or maybe it was supposed to be, he was going to deliver a sermon from the lectern or the pulpit, and I'm used to him doing it in the center. I have to go and configure that real quickly. So for me, the ease of use of Ecamm makes it so that I can get this set up and it's bulletproof. And then the only thing I have to worry about is where I'm pointing those cameras during the service. So that is how I've got this set up. Now I want to get into how do I control these cameras. The two cameras that are in here are two 1080p IP cameras, pan tilt zoom IP cameras. IP meaning that they have an IP address, they're on the network, and they send their video signal through the network rather than like an HDMI cable or something like that. And so I can control those remotely. And there are apps on this Mac that allow me to do that. And there's like this PTZ Optics app that I've got here. I can go ahead and control that. Well, I mean, you can see my screen's already pretty full. This green area right here, by the way, this is my mixer board. The mixer board is off right now at the church, so I don't have a user interface for this. But if I did, this would be a series, this green window would be a series of vertical faders that I would have to tweak during the service. I usually don't play around with them too much, but if I need somebody's singing too loud or somebody's voice is just bad, I want to turn down the volume. I can do that, or mute them completely. Or if the pastor forgot to turn off his wireless mic, which has happened before, I can mute it so that I'm not hearing his conversations, or his conversations, his private conversations, are not going out to the stream. So this is a virtual representation of this massive mixer board that I have off to the left at the church. So my screen's full. I can't really add anything else to it at this point. So having the cameras, having a separate app again running just for the cameras it becomes, you're clicking up and down through windows, and we always talk about the big thing with doing anything that's live streaming is reducing your friction, right? I mean, you want to focus on delivering a message, kind of like what I'm talking to you right now. So me, prior to having this live stream going, I set things up so that it would minimize the amount of friction during the presentation. I could give the presentation without having to worry about clicking here or clicking there. Did I not set something up? I got it all set up. It's the same thing here. I don't want to have to worry about any of the technical details of these, the setup here, when I should be focused on the service and what's going on in the service. And I went to the church last weekend, and everybody's like, how do you see what's going on? And my thing is, I always maintain a wide shot. So for instance, you can see right now, these are both wide shots. These are as wide as these get. But if I want to see where somebody's going or what's going on before I switch cameras, I always keep a wide shot open. And I remembered from this past weekend, I never looked up. I mean, I have the entire church right in front of me, live right in front of me. I never looked up. I just looked at these screens, and I was keeping my wide shot going the whole time. Whether it was a center camera wide shot or a wide shot on the left camera, I had those set up exactly like I needed so that I could track where people were going before I zoomed in on them. And I'm not perfect. I'm still getting there, but I think I've got it streamlined to the point now where I don't have to worry about a lot of the technicalities, and then I can just focus on where are people going to be. And this becomes especially an issue when they do, what do they call it? Joys and concerns. So the entire church, people can raise their hand, and a dude walks with the microphone to them, and then they say whatever's on their mind. And I have to get in on that super quick, because they always will make it to that person before I can zoom in on them. So I always keep the wide shots going just in case. And I'm not perfect. And also the biggest gripe I have with this camera setup, and we're talking about changing it, is that when I zoom in on people, whether it be from the left or the center, I see the back of their heads. That's not very useful. So I want to move one of the cameras to the front so we can not only look at people's faces when they're doing the joys and concerns, but during the mass, switching up the cameras when people are singing or people are paying attention to the pastor. I can swap between the pastor's shot and the shot of the congregation. So it becomes a little bit of an art form. You're a director, producer, sound engineer, camera operator. I mean, you're everything. And in this case, we're controlling it from 60 miles away. I mean, there's no way you could have done this 20 years ago. There's just no way. So this is super cool that you can even do it. So how do I control these cameras? If I'm not going to pull up a separate user interface inside the window here, which I could do, and it's a fallback just in case. Well, I'm using this product called Companion, and if you go to it's bitfocus.io. If you go to that website and you create an account, then you go to the download section, there's a product called Companion, and Companion allows you to send commands from your desktop machine at your studio, your remote computer, to the computer that you're remoting into. So your local computer into the remote computer. So this is really useful for sending commands to those cameras when I'm doing the live stream without ever having to go into a user interface. In the remote computer, I can do it all from my tablet because it also works with the Stream Deck software. So if you're running the Stream Deck, whether it be the virtual Stream Deck or an actual physical Stream Deck, it will show up with buttons and commands that you configure inside this Companion app. So the way you do it, you have to have the Companion running on both machines. So you have it running locally, and then you have it running remotely, right? And you want to download the latest experimental version, which is 3.99 for the cloud feature. This is important because Companion Cloud is what enables you to send the commands remotely from your computer to the remote computer. And this includes camera commands. So I've got it set up here. And when you tell it to launch the GUI, the graphic user interface, it'll come up like this. Now, as Mac users, we're used to visual things and we're used to drag and drop and all that other stuff. This is very much like a bolted on interface. It is, there's a lot of code going on in the background. This reminds me of a slightly evolved Linux GUI. And so there's a lot of things in here that you will never touch. So it's easy to get overwhelmed from the beginning, but you don't, the key components for you on the machine that you're controlling from is that you turn on cloud, and then in this case, I put on time zone just so my timing is correct. You don't have to use time zone, but I do. So when you install the cloud, how do you install it? Well, this is another thing that they don't make. There's steps for this, and you can go online, and this is how I learned. I just, how do you enable Cloud Companion or Companion Cloud? And you go to the settings tab, and you scroll down to the bottom. You could just ignore all this stuff. Just ignore it. You don't need it right now. But you'll see, let's see here. No, this is the wrong one. No, this is right. Did they move it on me? Oh, yeah. So it says Companion Cloud tab. So on, I love this. Do not touch these settings unless you know what you're doing. It's like, all right, way to make you feel like that big really quick, right? So use the touch back in for drag and drop. We just leave all this stuff off for the moment. You're going to enable cloud on the remote computer. Okay. So just leave all this stuff. The only thing that I turn on is, nope. Yeah, I tell it to watch for new USB devices, because if you go to the Surfaces tab, it will detect all the apps that it's compatible with. So in this case, I've got they call it an emulator, but basically this is Stream Deck, virtual Stream Deck running. And then you've got, I've got two Stream Decks here. I got the pedal. So I've got here, let me put on the Osmo here real quick, and you can see what I've got set up. Yeah, right. Exactly. Straightforward, huh? So you can see I've got, this is virtual Stream Deck running on an iPad. This was like a first gen iPad Pro with the M chip. And then I've got my Stream Deck Plus down here. And this is my monitor for me being able to see my camera view. And of course, the Rodecaster Pro too. So I've got these two set up like I want it. Now the virtual stream, and then I'm down below, you can't see it, but I've got a pedal. So you can see this clearly does not look like your typical interface. This is not something that you would normally see. And that's because these are called companion buttons. So I'm running the Stream Deck software, but I've installed companion buttons into these locations. And what's really cool about the virtual Stream Deck versus the physical Stream Deck is look how many buttons you can have, and they're all right here, and they're super easy to configure. And if you wanted to, you could actually have one running. Whoops, come back. You could have I could do a split view here, and then I could pull up another instance here, and then I could have two different Stream Decks side by side with the iPad, with the virtual Stream Deck, which is insanity. That's a little too much, but you could be controlling two different devices with the virtual Stream Deck software, just using the split screen. All right, so we're going to get to this. How does this work? Well, let's go back over into the iPad view, or I'm sorry, my desktop view, and we will. All right, so these are all enabled, and then I'll pull up my, okay, here's my streaming, or the computer. Let me turn off, right now I don't need this. Okay, so you see I've got, well here, no, actually I'll take that back. I'll do one as live and one as preview. All right, so let me pull up the iPad, and you can see what I'm doing here. All right. So I've got all these buttons, and you see it's kind of hard to see, but you can see that there's almost duplicates, right? So the first three rows are the center camera, and the bottom three rows are the left camera. So for instance, the left camera is in preview mode right now. So if I want to say I want to go left lower alter, you can see there's that orange button that says left lower alter. If I tap that, it sends the command to the camera, and boom, now it's zoomed in. So I just did that for my iPad. The iPad sent the command through the companion app, and then the companion app on the remote side of the desktop system received that command and then routed it to the camera, and it was pretty quick. It's not instantaneous, but you can see here. Let me launch the GUI for this one. Okay, so this is a little bit different. This is a little bit different layout from what I have on my system at my studio. You can see here I've got center camera, left camera, and then Ecamm Live. There is a module that supposedly allows you to remote control Ecamm Live as if you had a Stream Deck there. It's not fully developed, and it doesn't work for just a few minor features, so I don't even bother with it. But you can see here I've got two cameras. I've got the center camera and then the left camera, and they're using the PTC optics. Basically, it says module. It's a driver. Okay. And so those two are enabled. And so then I've got my buttons configured here. So I've got this center like here. So I've got center. Well, here, I can show you right here. So you see left lower alter, right? I'm going to tap it. Watch here. I'm going to tap it on my iPad. And you see it's sending that command. This is on the remote system. It just received that command to go to that preset. And what does that do? Well, if I click on this button, here's the edit window. So left lower alter. This, by the way, this text will propagate all the way back to my iPad at my studio. So whatever I type in here, for instance, if I say, I'll just call it left lower 1, like that. Now, if I pull up my iPad here, you can see now it says left lower 1. So it's sent that new button name up and over to my iPad here at my studio. Okay, I'll turn that off and we will go back to alter. The colors, oops, let's do this. The colors come from the background color I select here. Now, why did I put all these as a bunch of different colors? Do I like something that looks like Skittles? No. But if I go here, let me pull up, I created a little, see if I can find it here. I'll pull it up on my other window first. Give me 1 second. And no, that's not what we want. Come on, Safari, go away. Okay. So it seems to be pulling up my Finder window in another location, which I have no idea where it is, but I will. Here, we'll do this. I will go to my iCloud drive. Give me 1 second here, folks. Okay. Okay. So why did I color code these? Well, it's pretty simple, actually. I created a map of the church and I color coded this so I could quickly, this was something that I came up with. So I've got the two pianos here, the altar, the lower altar, the main altar, the pulpit, the podium, the choir section, and you can see where the cameras are. So that allows me very quickly, I make that color association. So I don't even need to read the stinking button. I remember the color, I hit that color button and it takes me to wherever I need to be, if that makes sense. All right, get rid of that. My computer is screaming at me saying, hey, too much stuff. Okay, we don't need two of me here. All right. So anyway, that's how I set up the colors for all these. And then, so you might be like, well, where is this, like these buttons here? Where are they? How do I know? It says here, it says, if you look off to the right here, it says press action. So this means that when you press this button, what does it do? Well, in this case, there's no delay and it launches preset number 4. So I've set up on the cameras, I've already pre-configured them so that they will go to specific locations. In this case, this is going to go to the left piano. So if I tap that and now go look behind, there it is. It's at the piano, right? And if I press left altar, see, it's jumping around here. And all it's doing is recalling presets. That's all it's doing. It's pretty neat. And it makes it super simple to set up all the buttons, all the functionality of this module you can enable as buttons here. And then you can make these buttons available to your machine that you're remoting from. So you can see here, this is something that may not be, we're going to look at this in a second, but you see the buttons have these numbers above them, 2, 4, 3, 2, 4, 2, right? So this is, the first number indicates what page it's coming from, which is page 2, right? And then 4, if you go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, this is row 4. And then in this case, it's row 4, button 0, row 4, button 1. So why again, goes back to the whole Linux thing, right? It's like, why not just use 1, just offset it? Because, a lot of people don't think in zeros, but whatever. This, I understood it, but that's, this was definitely something that I had to get used to. But then once you get used to it, boom, you're off to the races. So we've got all these buttons. I've already set all these up. Now, how do I know which button does which? If you go into the presets tab here, you can see that the two modules, I've got my left camera and the center camera, have these presets. And if I click on that, now I've got different presets to control different functionalities. Hey, Neil, that allow, so for instance, the pan tilt. And now, see, these buttons are already programmed in. You know, these look familiar at all? Look at that. All right. Home, speed up, speed down. Those things, they're already pre-configured. So all I need to do, if I want something in here, I click it and I drag it in. And now that button, which is now assigned to position 2, 4, 5. And this is only important for when we start doing things back on the on our machine where commuting, or I keep saying commuting, but we're remoting in from that, these number positions become important. So, and this works for everything. Their controls are a little bit, you know, it's like you hit delete and it says, you sure you want to delete it? Yes. Hit the button you want to delete. Okay. There. Okay. That didn't work. Well, whatever. Do that. Go to presets and we're on the left camera. So let's say, for instance, I wanted to mess with some exposure settings. You can see here, I can change my exposure mode, auto exposure mode, manual exposure mode. I can control my iris and my shutter speed. I can control all of that using this module. Now, I don't mess with this stuff normally, and it's a church. So do I need to have high shutter speed? No, and it's usually generally well lit enough that I don't need to mess around with any of these settings. If I do, I'll go in and change it at the computer level. But most of the time, for the purposes of what I'm doing, auto exposure works great, and I don't have to worry about anything. The only time I've had issues, if you look off to the, let me get this one. If you look off on this side here, you can see these windows. Those windows are, they're problematic for the left camera. You see that it can blow out the image, but you see the auto iris kicks in and it works. The problem is now I can't see the people sitting in those pews. So what I get is silhouettes. So, you know, this is again, another reason why I don't know why they place the camera right here. And we're going to try and move it so that we don't have this issue to deal with in the future. I'd rather just have two cameras kind of aiming at each other from both ends of the church. So what's really neat about this, though, is that because that stuff's auto, all I have to worry about is the main functions, right? So I hit the home button before, and then you might have noticed that I was also able to pan to the right. Well, a lot of that is because I'm using the commands. I'm going to pull up the iPad again right here. So you can see, watch the button. So I'm going to press the left arrow down the lower red left arrow. You see, I'll press that and you see how the camera is panning, right? And then the reason why I have zoom in and zoom out on this window is if I need some manual zoom control, which I almost always do. You might have noticed that when I went to the left piano here, you see, I need to reset this. I think they moved the piano because the piano was off. This is another thing you got to deal with is people moving stuff, microphones especially. But so now I need to go in and, whoops, that was too far. See, if you keep your finger on a button too long, you have to deal with, let's see that, like something like that, and maybe zoom out a little bit, and then I could reconfigure it. But you see, I'm just tapping the buttons to get the camera aimed exactly where I need it. And this is where, you know, the buttons work. The dials on the Stream Deck Plus work really well too, because you can use the dials to pan left, right, up, down, zoom in, out. You can certainly do that. I've had limited success with this, and I'll tell you why. When each little turn or click of the dial on the Stream Deck Plus, If you go 2 clicks, it'll issue that command twice. If you go too fast, it'll ignore a bunch of interim clicks and then just go, you know, 1. So it maybe just advance 1 or 2 instead of 5 or 6. So, and a lot of that is due to the latency of the internet. So I stopped using the dials just because I wasn't getting the control I wanted. In retrospect, probably what I should do is use the zoom in and zoom out buttons on the iPad. And then if I need to make little minor adjustments, I can do that just by 1 click at a time and get it to roughly where I want it. But this is a work in progress for me. I'm still trying to figure out tweaking these things, but it can be done. And these are all because these functions are exposed from the companion app that's running. So let me show one more thing here. Eventually what I'm going to need to do is probably an entire session, like a live session on setting up Companion. I'm not going to do that today because that easily is an hour long, if not multiple sessions. But if I go to, you see, I've got a cloud tab on this one now. So if I go to settings, I'll scroll down to settings, you'll see now Companion Cloud tab is enabled. And then that shows up with the cloud. And this is the only way that this computer, I can access this computer, is by turning on this cloud function, which is why having Splashtop Desktop is the best way to get that all functional, because it's like I'm sitting there turning this on anyway. Notice that, see what happened there? My all the buttons just disappeared. Look at the iPad, right? And this is because there's probably some latency going on, and you know, it's trying to reset itself. I've had this happen before. And what I'll often do is if I turn the cloud off and then turn it back on, it usually comes back, which is exactly what it did. So I've never had this happen during a live stream, but when I'm goofing off, like what I'm doing right now, and sending out 2 4K streams, plus I'm remoting into a computer 60 miles away, I'm kind of pushing my internet. I mean, I still got plenty of bandwidth, but it's clear that it's having challenges. So the thing is, with the cloud, the Companion Cloud, you see I've got this super secret key here, and you know, I mean, that's a key. If you want it, you can control the church, but I don't think you want to do that. But when you sign up for the Companion Cloud, you will get a key, and you plug in that key to this Companion Cloud, and that's a unique key that allows you to control that computer. And so that's it. That's all you got to do. And then you log in with the same credentials. You create an account with Bitfocus, the company that makes Companion, and then you can the accounts see each other, and then this shows up as a device that you can control. So now with Companion up and running, and I've got my buttons configured here, how in the heck are they showing up inside of my iPad? Remember, I was saying, why do I have 2 of me here? I don't need 2 of me. I mean, I know you guys like looking at me and everything, but geez. So how do these buttons show up? And to see that, or to understand that, we really need to go into the Stream Deck app itself and take a look at how that's all set up. So let me pull up my Stream Deck. Okay, and I will switch over to the iPad again, or screen. There we go, and we'll set this to my iPad. And wow, super tiny. See if I can make that bigger. Okay, there we go. Hopefully you can see that. Here, I'll move it over here so you can see how it updates in the iPad in real time. So when you you go to the Elgato App Store for the Stream Deck, and there is a companion button plugin that you can download and install. And if let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, here's Companion, and it's just here, just one little companion button. So if I drag that in, You see now it pops up. It's on my iPad, right? And how is this getting its configuration? Well, you see here, there is, I don't use this dynamic page thing. I like to hard code the page, so I'm just going to turn that off. So what this is looking for is what page number, what row number, and what button number. You remember we set that up, right? That was something we set up on the computer. However, this is the key. When you're running the app locally, like I was showing you earlier with the cloud and time zone, here is where you set up those buttons. All right. So what are these? You already set them up on the remote computer. Why are you setting them up here? Well, these are mapped to the remote computer. So if you click on it here, you can see that it is a cloud button here. This is a cloud button, which means it's pulling from the cloud, that computer that we're connected to 60 miles away. And what button are we connecting this particular location to? Well, then it's going to be page 1, row 2, button 2. All right. And now, so if I have zoom stop here, that's what this is. If I wanted to go into this one here, and this is my local button. My local button though is 115. This is where look, if you're confused, I get it, because this confused the hell out of me the first time I did it. I'm more than happy to answer any questions on this because I'm going through it kind of fast, but feel free to stop me and ask questions. I'm cool with that. So here I've got button 115. So if I change this guy to button 115, see, now it just went to zoom stop. So, and look at that, zoom stop. And zoom stop is pulling it from the zoom stop, which is over at the remote computer. So that's how you configure all these up. So now that that's set up here, you can place a button wherever you want in your Stream Deck interface. And then you've got things. This is how you configure things out. And you can lay it out exactly like you want it. I mean, it really just comes down to personal preferences here. I mean, if I wanted to, I could make this larger. So for instance, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I got 48 buttons here, which is bigger than any physical Stream Deck has on it. If I wanted to, here, I'll go to the iPad. You can see the iPad directly here. If I click on the gear icon, I can set it 8x6. I can go all the way to 8x8. Right? And if I do that, I now have even more buttons that I could put up here if I wanted to. This starts to get a little too much. I don't think it's really necessary, but it really comes down to personal preference, because you can always set up multiple pages on your Stream Deck, right? So I could go through to page 2, page 3, and I prefer buttons being a little bit bigger so that they're easier to tap like that. So that's how I get that configured the way I want. Some other quick things here with, let me see if I can go and show you real quick the local, did I get rid? No, here it is. Okay. So you may notice if you see the home button for both of these, if you're looking at let's see here, where am I staring? So you see the two home buttons, right? And they've got little pictures in them. That's pictures that I set up. So I took a screenshot, collapsed it down to, like, I don't know, 72 by 72 pixels or whatever aspect ratio I chose. And then inside of, go back to my screen here, inside here, you'll see the home button, right? And then there is a PNG inside there. And you can see that's where it's getting that picture from. It would be cool if that could be dynamic, but it seems like it's a little bit extra bandwidth occupying that doesn't need to be taken, when really what you should be focused on is making sure that everything is, you know, you're getting your signals as quickly as possible. I have noticed a little bit of latency, just a tad bit of latency with what I'm seeing and hearing on the screen with Splashtop, and then what I'll see in the live stream. So I've got my laptop off to the side here, and I will join. I'll watch the stream live there and listen to it. Just make sure that words and, because I'm focusing in on people, and if they're talking and the sound is coming a couple of frames later, I got to fix that. So what they don't tell you is that in Ecamm, well, they do tell you this, but it's not something that's very obvious. You do not see the update in Ecamm, meaning as you do like your, if I go into Ecamm here and just go into preferences, and you see the mic delay here, it says delay the microphone audio by this many frames. So I figured it out to be about 2, but if you look deep into the Ecamm documentation, it actually says that this is something that you will not see on the stream. I'm sorry, you won't see it on the local version. You'll see as close as possible on the local copy of Ecamm, but where you will see the results, and you can update this in real time and it will work, is in the stream or in the recording. Now, obviously you can't watch a recording while you're recording. So the only way that you can really test it out is by looking at the stream and making sure that as you make adjustments during the stream, that it's going in the right direction for you. That's the only way. And I figured out that this one, it's about 2 frames or so of a mic delay. Also, these 2 cameras, by the way, these are NDI or network cameras. So they're sending their video signal over network. And this is actually the first time where I used the manage network camera feature inside of Ecamm. And if I click on that, you can see I've got my 2 network cameras, and you input your username, :password at the IP address, and that'll pull in the camera into Ecamm. So because I'm not using HDMI, I'm using the network signal for this to work. And it works, so far it works just fine. So, all right. Wow, I covered a lot there. 30 minutes, no, it's 11:30, so that's an hour. Okay, I think I've covered pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about. Now, again, I know I went really fast and I talked about a lot of different concepts. So if you have any questions, now would be the time to ask them. Otherwise, I'll leave it, and then we can we can have discussions. Thanks for joining me. And if you have any questions, be sure to drop them in the comment section, and make sure, if you haven't done already, and I think you all have, hit like and subscribe. All right, guys. Thanks a lot. Talk to you later. Bye.
They're here.